Welcome to our first live show. So excited to have you all watching and so happy to all of our co-hosts who are here. We're going to dive into some DeAndre Hopkins talk, also some Dalvin Cook, and each of us will give three players we want the Bills to take in the 2023 NFL Draft. But first, some breaking news happened earlier this morning. Jalen Hurts signed a 5-year, $255 million contract. 179 of it is fully guaranteed. So, guys, what do you guys think of the deal and how it shapes out the new quarterback market?
I'll just say I'm happy the Bills signed Josh Allen for the deal they did 2 years ago, and now he's like the seventh highest paid quarterback or something like that. And now you have Burrow, Herbert gonna have to get paid too in the future. I mean, Tua's probably gonna have to get paid. Daniel Jones just got paid, so I mean, the Bills have Josh Allen under contract for a very reasonable deal for the significant future, and for the level of play they're getting from him, it's very worth it. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said, Ben. I think paying him what is he the highest paid quarterback?
Highest paid quarterback in the NFL history.
I think that's
highest paid player, right? Yeah,
highest paid player in the league. I feel like that was a mistake, to be honest with you. I think he should have been paid a little bit less. But I mean, they went to the Super Bowl, so kudos to the Eagles for getting it done. Now it's just a matter of time for when Joe Burrow gets paid. Like you said, Tua gets paid. Justin Herbert, I think he's the next one to get paid. I think eventually his contract will oversee.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts. Yeah. He'll oversee.
I mean, and then you got Lamar, who's still trying to get paid. And then it came out. I think I also saw a report today that they offered him over $200 million guaranteed, and they still haven't signed him.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows how that situation's gonna work out? I mean, to me, it's still one of the most bizarre situations ever. You got a former MVP, not even 3 years ago. He's 27, and I mean, he cannot get signed for the life of him. And any other team, if they want, they could basically sign him for 2 first-round picks, which is semi-reasonable considering Deshaun Watson went for 3 first-round picks plus additional picks. I mean, and Lamar Jackson actually has an MVP. So, I mean, it's one of the most bizarre situations to me, Paul. Like, who knows how that situation is going to unfold. But again, like Tommy said, props to Jalen. He definitely earned it. I mean, great work. I mean, he was benched for Tua, transferred to OU, came in as a backup to Carson, and then, should have won a Super Bowl. And actually his defense let him down. But, I mean, congrats to Jalen Hurts. Great contract, and I think it was well earned.
What do you think, Jenna?
Well, I definitely think it's going to change the quarterback market again. What's crazy is that I don't even think Jalen Hurts has even had or even reached 30-plus passing touchdowns, not to my knowledge.
Right.
A majority of it has been on the ground. So I'm not surprised that he got as much as he did. It just, we know that it's going to affect Lamar Jackson and Herbert to Burrow. I saw a tweet. It was Joe Burrow in a Saints uniform saying that he's probably not gonna want the amount of money that the Bengals are going to offer him because of how the Jalen Hurts contract has shaken up the market.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess Jalen Hurts kind of puts a positive spark onto the quarterback market because we were talking about Deshaun Watson all the time, and in his horrible things that he's done, how he's shaking up the quarterback market, and how he's shaking up the quarterback market in a horrible, I guess you could say, in a horrible way. And now there's kind of a new spark, and it's reaching out to Jalen Hurts money, $255 million. But the thing is that Lamar Jackson was given a 200 fully guaranteed. So he's probably getting a 270 to almost $300 million contract, and 200 of that guaranteed. I tweeted out something like I would put pads on and go and play for the Ravens if I was given
I
240
know, right?
speed.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
But
what I would
But
kudos
say.
to him though.
definitely feels good
Pads on.
to.
I'll put pads on.
He earned some of that money getting to the Super Bowl. So kudos to Hurts.
Kudos to him. I mean,
Yeah.
he got into the Super Bowl, but I guess it kind of goes back to puts a new shape of the quarterback market. But I guess the
Right.
one thing everyone's been wanting to hear us talk about is probably finally to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. It's back again. It was quiet for so long. It's kind of was forgotten about, and now here it is. CBS posted a video yesterday. Uh, Based on face reactions, it seems like it's between the Bills and the Chiefs. So, which leads us to this: would you overpay for DeAndre Hopkins if it would keep him away from the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, it's already been said that DeAndre Hopkins is now looking for a raise. So, monetary wise, I don't think we need to worry about that. It's the draft picks that we have to worry about. It's the compensation. So, are we going to have to give up a player? Are we going to have to give up more than a third round pick? Any more than a 2024 third round pick is what I'm leaning towards,
Mm-hmm.
because we have we're probably going to get a third round comp pick, so that, you know, replaces each other. But that's my take.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jenna. I think, like you said, I think maybe that they have a contract worked out somewhere, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills. But I think they're just trying. Maybe it's like a back and forth thing of how much draft capital we'll have to give up for each team. So I mean, if it's looking like he's not looking for a pay raise, then if he's looking to decrease the salary a little bit, why not go for it? You know what I'm saying? Keep him away from one of our rivals. And I
I
think
did see something this
have to
morning.
offer him like a third plus a fourth. I say go ahead and do it.
Hmm
Makes a
I
lot of
seen
sense for our
something.
offense.
I seen something this morning on Pro Football Talk that he actually deleted that tweet. That
But
Yeah,
I don't want to
he
raise
did,
tweet.
because I went to look at my response to it, which my response is still up, but his tweet had been, it says tweet deleted by author. And just to kind of chime in, I mean, it really depends, Paul, what you constitute as an overpay. Like, I mean, if you're swapping first with Arizona, they trade you their second and D Hop, I would probably do that. If they want a third too, that might be a little uncomfortable, but if you're still talking D Hop, like you'll still be able to get D Hop, you'll still be able to add a linebacker high in the second round. I mean, even if Jack Campbell and Simpson are off the board, you should still be able to get Henley or Drew Sanders as well at that spot at Arizona's pick, and you still have your second rounder, which can be used on offensive tackle, and then you would have only 3 more picks in the draft. But if you're getting D Hop and filling a need at middle linebacker, I probably would do it, even if it's a little uncomfortable. Compensation wise, you just look at some of the Bills' recent third round picks, and I mean they've not that they've thrown them away or flushed them down the toilet, but you look at Zach Moss, Spencer Brown, Terrell Bernard, not like Bean has knocked them out of the park recently. So if you can do without a third round pick this year and it equals D Hop, I think it's going to be more impactful, because just based on the recent third round picks, we haven't been getting at least impact year one. I mean, Terrell Bernard can still be fine, but his rookie year, he wasn't, a quality third round pick. So, I mean, if you're going to go with that formula, you're going to get much more impact trading your third round pick for D Hop. So I would do it.
And then you gotta factor in too, Ben, that today we re-signed AJ Klein.
Yeah,
So
as well.
more depth at linebacker too. So like, is it really? I mean, are we really going to draft a linebacker high? Like, could we wait to like the third, like fourth, fifth rounds, or will they just go ahead and keep building onto that position? You know?
That AJ Klein signing today definitely helps a lot. Like, kind of paves the path a little bit way as we head into the draft. And obviously we're still talking DeAndre Hopkins, and like it kind of paints out the picture just a little bit. There's still a couple like look at it as like a puzzle, like 100-piece puzzle. We have like 90 pieces of the puzzle left, or maybe 85 of the pieces left. We're still figuring out the other 10, 15 pieces of the puzzle, and then is DeAndre Hopkins the last 5 pieces of that puzzle? And I think getting a DeAndre Hopkins brings Buffalo maybe a solid 6 receivers this season. That's a solid 6 receivers. I think you could say you get DeAndre Hopkins, the Bills should have one of the best receiver rooms in football. I mean,
100%.
maybe they give away Gabe Davis in that trade, maybe not. I mean, I wouldn't give away Gabe Davis in a trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
I would give away Davis over Shakir though. If a team is asking about one of our young receivers, I'm not trading Shakir. Shakir,
Oh,
I
no.
think has a better skill set. He's got more time left on his contract. I'm keeping Shakir. But
100%.
I mean, if we could keep Davis, I'm all for trading Davis. But if another team is asking about one of our receivers, like Shakir is the one guy I'm saying no way on.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm
I
saying
don't
that
think other teams know about Shakir as much as we do right now.
right.
Yeah. Well, they will next year.
Yeah,
Oh, they will.
they will.
How about
So-
trading Ed Oliver in a package?
Oh yeah, trading
I
it
mean,
out.
I would do it. He's the one guy I would send out.
Heck yeah.
We're saving $10 million in cap space.
You could replace him in the draft easily with the guy who got Texas Snacks, or you get the base defensive tackle.
Yeah, or if you want to add more size, you get Siaka Ika in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Definitely. I
there's a
think.
lot of this
I
draft.
mean, if the Bills somehow are able to get rid of Ed Oliver, trade for D-Hop, draft Ika and Drew Sanders, like that's going to be one of the most insane hauls ever. Like,
100%.
yeah, you could right tackle might be an issue still. I mean, but still you could, I mean, you look at the right tackle position too, interestingly enough, like all the tackles pretty much besides Darnell Wright played left tackle. So if you're trying to look for a right tackle, I don't know if that's really a pick you should be using as a premium pick, because I think the only one who's really worthy of that pick would be Darnell Wright, just because like he's an actual right tackle. But I mean, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson, like they all played left tackle. So did Anton Harrison, and Harrison's got shorter arms too. And another thing, if you're looking at tackles out of Oklahoma, I would look at Harrison's teammate Morris. He was the right tackle there, and was a former 5-star recruit. So,
Right.
I mean, that's my argument for not taking a tackle, because you're not even going to be drafting a right tackle, and that's a position you need. It's right tackle.
Right.
We'll get into more drafts later, but sticking on the D-Hop conversation, what does D-Hop bring to the Bills offense if he can play a full healthy 17 games?
I mean, I'd say probably about anywhere between 11 to probably 1,500 yards is probably what you'll probably get out of him for a full season. Probably anywhere between like 8 to even as many as 12 plus touchdowns. Like, I mean, I think if you get a guy like D-Hop, he's a perfect red zone target for Josh. And I think Diggs is only going to get better too. So, I mean, I think the sky's the limit if you have D-Hop.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I feel like if you get D-Hop on this team, you will have 1,200 between 1,200 1,500 yard receivers on your team.
Yeah, and think about how. Yeah, and think about the cornerbacks that are in this division. We have Jalen Ramsey now on the Dolphins, and
that's a great point.
If you have a press man receiver like him, then you're gonna want a receiver who's able to. Did I say press man receiver? I said press man corner. If you have a press man corner like him, you're gonna want a receiver who has range and the catching ability to go like outside of the normal, frame that a receiver will catch her.
Yeah, 100%.
You got is it DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner.
Yeah. And then you got a couple corners that, I mean, the Patriots, they always load up on corner, and they always find on their defensive end, on their defensive back front. So like they'll find somebody to.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of D-Hop, I'm trying to remember what year it was. Was it maybe 2018 or 2017? But I saw a stat the other day where like D Hop did not have a single drop one of his
Oh wow.
seasons. Like it was like an old stat. I'm like, it's a foreshadowing, but like talk about like amazing hands and just like anytime like you throw him the ball, like he can make a contested catch. I mean, we saw him. He mossed 3 all pro defenders on one
He did.
play.
Yeah.
I mean, just unreal talent. Anytime, you throw him the ball, he could moss you, he can go up. He's got amazing one-handed ability. I mean,
Yeah.
he still has it. Last year he had I think he missed 7 games in his 8 games he played or whatever. He still had 800 yards and 7 or so touchdowns. I mean, his first 2 games back, he caught over you know, he almost caught I think the first game it was like 13 receptions. The second one was like 10, but like his first game back, he caught a dozen receptions after not playing in
Wow.
over a year because I
Yeah.
mean, he had that injury which ended his 21 season, and then he started the 22 season on the suspension. So, I mean, that's another thing you have to keep an account for D Hop. Like, he's basically spent 2 years since you got a full season of D Hop. So he's gonna have a little bit of chip on his shoulder too, and he's gonna want to come out there and perform because like he didn't get to start last season and he didn't get to end the season before. And if you guys go and look at I don't know if you remember McAfee's interview, but like he even said like they were undefeated before he got hurt in
Right.
Arizona, or they were 8-1 or whatever. Like
Yep.
they basically like fell off their offense once D Hop got hurt. And if you had a player like that, the Buffalo's offense or the like number 2 offense of football last year, like good night.
Yeah.
Oh, good night.
It has me
Like,
excited.
kind of to like Jenna's point.
Man, if this were to happen.
Oh yeah. Kind of to like Jenna's point. Like you bring D Hop, it's going to be a matchup nightmare. I
Right.
mean, you have Diggs on one end and you have Hopkins at the other. I mean, kind of like you're going to play Miami. Say we get Miami week 2 like we did last year. Who do you put on Ramsey? Like who does Ramsey play?
Right.
Like does Ramsey go to the number 2 and play against Hopkins because he always gets burned against Diggs, or does he play against Diggs
Well,
and get burned all night?
doesn't Diggs also own Xavier Howard? So that's going to be a pretty
Yeah, that is
bad
true.
option for Miami either way.
Think about
Best
this.
too, I was gonna say in that situation too, you could always put Diggs in the slot as well.
That's what I was just
Well,
about to say.
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, that's a great point, Tommy, because you can just make like D Hop the X. If you still have Gabe, he could be the Y, and you could like you don't have to like Diggs doesn't have to stay in the slot, but I mean you could basically just move him around. I
Yeah.
mean, or what about even Davis in the slot?
Oh wow.
Have we seen
Yeah.
Davis in the slot?
Well, no, we haven't. I don't think so.
Put anyone in the slot. Put Knox in the slot too. At this point.
I know, right? I mean, it's just it's so many things that Dorsey that if he's capable of can run. There's so many options.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He just needs to get his act together and make it right if we do end up trading for D-Hop.
Oh.
D-Hop
Yeah.
needs to
I
make
don't think so. Especially being in his second year.
Right.
He's going to be
Yeah.
forced to reevaluate how he approached last season.
Yeah, but it's not even just a reevaluation. Like it's I mean, you also have to look at like how many injuries we had. Like we lost Gabe Davis hurt his ankle week 2. So I mean week 2 we were missing receivers. Then Jamison Crowder broke his ankle. And I mean, McKenzie had a concussion. The offensive line was like a train wreck throughout the season, like no continuity, injuries throughout. Then Josh had the UCL injury. I mean, then you had, the stretch where they couldn't practice because of the blizzards and everything. I mean, it was just a really weird season. I mean, they still were able to win 13 games. They'd have statistically the second, best offensive football. So, I mean, I guess compared to what they had, there may not have been as much window dressing overall, but like I think you still got to look at it objectively and be like they still had a great season where they put up points. First year, offensive coordinator and play caller. So now you're kind of looking to see how they can build off that going into next year.
Right.
Because even if you remember Brian Dable's first year, and yes, I know there's entirely different circumstances, but still, like, I mean, it took Dable a couple of years to kind of find his groove. I mean, and I'm not saying we should give Dorsey a couple of years to just mess up, but I mean, I think his second year, I mean, they got a lot of people, consultants and guys, Shula and Brady, who've also been offensive coordinators. So I'm not as low on Dorsey as others are.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, if you
There's
look at
moments where I've criticized him, but throughout this offseason, I've really thought about how he can definitely improve.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think he's going to be as inconsistent in his second year.
Yep.
I mean, look at what Dable did in his first season. He
Right.
basically led us to the playoffs in his first season with what, Tyrod Taylor?
Actually, no, that was Rick Dennison.
Yeah, that was
And then
Dennis.
Rick
that was Rick
Dennison got
Dennison?
fired, and then Dable's first year, Nathan Peterman was a starting quarterback because it was Josh's rookie year. So
So, what do you take a wide receiver in this draft if you get D-Hop? Do you like completely eliminate wide receiver from the draft board?
I think wide receiver is going to be a necessity either way, because even if you do add in D-Hop, you got Davis with 1 year left on his contract. Diggs is going to be 30 in the fall. D-Hop is, I think, 31. So, I mean, just because of Davis's contract, the other two guys getting older, I mean, there's question marks. You do have Shakir, but even Sherfield has 1 year on his deal. Hardy only has another year after this deal. So, I mean, you really, in 2-3 years, you could really have no one other than maybe Shakir out of this current receiving room. So I think at the very least, you got to at least take one in the 4th, 5th round if you don't, plan on drafting one early.
I agree.
The thing that I struggle with, sorry, Tommy.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead, Jenna.
The thing that I struggle with is if we get D-Hop and we keep Davis on the roster, we're gonna have 6 receivers. And how many do we want to keep on the roster if not having a other receiver on the practice squad?
Right.
Yeah, and I guess you gotta just kind of play probably like the Hodgins game, right? And hope you can keep a guy on a practice squad to make it work or something like that. Or in that situation, you might just trade Gabe, right? I mean, just because of how full the room is. That's if you draft someone. But I mean, otherwise, you can just let Gabe play out his contract year, and you can just keep it the current room with Gabe and D-Hop. And then even if Gabe walks, I mean, you could still use your first round selection on wide receiver next year.
Oh, and the class is way better.
Yeah.
Straight up from Marvin Harrison.
Like even if
or if you want a 6'7" receiver who could run a 4.4, I mean, you can also do that in next year's class. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can do.
I feel like if you get D-Hop, I feel like just don't. I don't feel like they need to get a receiver. I feel like there's other needs they could take, like offensive line.
Yeah.
Maybe
defensive line too. I think you got defensive tackle.
A defensive tackle, maybe another defensive back, because I know they like their defensive backs too. So, because Trey White's getting older too, so
they can also benefit on safety.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Safety as well. But I'm not. I wouldn't be. I mean, it would be nice to draft another receiver, but I don't think it's quite a need if they get D-Hop.
Right, because you.
I agree.
I don't want to run the risk of drafting a receiver, having to put him on a practice squad, and then he gets scooped up by the Giants.
Yeah, Pooch off like Hodge. Yep. 100%.
But would anyone be upset like if Trent Sherfield is a camp cut if you draft like a receiver in the 3rd round? Like, were you really hoping so much that Trent Sherfield makes this roster? Like, I think Sherfield, he has a nice skill set, and I mean, I'm excited for what he might be able to do, but I mean, they didn't sign him long term. He's not, I don't think he's anything against the cap. So, I mean, even if you draft someone, I mean, the one odd man out, I mean, it could be one of these, free agent signings we made.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't spend much money on Hardy, so I mean.
Yeah, I think Hardy's a little bit more on the cap than Sherfield, and he has 2 years versus him. But I think either of them are pretty inexpensive as far as getting rid of.
Yeah.
But kind of on a similar note. Oh, what do you want to say, Tommy, before we switch?
Oh no, I was gonna say I wouldn't be opposed if they did take one in the 3rd round and then they cut I wouldn't, but
Kind of switch topics here from D Hop speculation. Now, how about to Dalvin Cook speculation, right? I mean, he's most likely either going to be traded or he's going to be cut. One of the two. But the one thing I can't get my head around is why would Minnesota move a guy like Dalvin Cook? He's about 27 years old. Yeah, he's had some injuries, but I mean, he's a really good player. He's a really good player. He's an outstanding player. I can't wrap my head around why they would trade a guy or even cut a guy like him. Maybe it's his cap. Maybe they want to rebuild. What do you guys think?
I would say with Dalvin Cook, I think they want to get younger at that position. That would be my guess. Either that or they want to just get rid of his cap hit.
Yeah, and I don't think Dalvin wants to be there too, from what I've been hearing necessarily. So I think it's just kind of like, his time has came up. I think that they're trying to, get his contract off of the books. It's a little much. He is getting up there in age. They have Madison. I think their offensive identity is more now that they have Jefferson. At least it's more, pass heavy. When they had Mike Zimmer, I mean, they ran the ball primarily. So, I mean, it made sense that they would, sign them to that contract. That was their identity. But now under Kevin O'Connell, like their offense has kind of shifted. So I think that's the main reason, Paul.
Yeah, I agree.
Good point.
So now, I mean, if the Bills would be interested in getting a guy like Dalvin Cook, I guess maybe a interesting question that popped into my mind would be, would you take Dalvin Cook over Bijan Robinson, or would you take Bijan Robinson over Dalvin Cook?
I'll let
I
you
would,
guys.
I would
I'm
say,
like the biggest Dalvin Cook fan ever, and I wouldn't take Dalvin Cook over Bijan right now. I
No.
mean, I love Dalvin Cook. I would love if the Bills signed him if, we don't get Bijan. But if you had the opportunity to draft Bijan right now or sign a 27-year-old Dalvin Cook who has torn his ACL before, who's just coming off of off-season shoulder surgery, he's had the wear and tear in the league. His contract is going to be way more. Bijan, you get him on a 5-year cost-controlled deal.
Yeah.
He's 21 years old. Sky's the limit for him. So I'm going Bijan on this one, Paul.
Bijan all the way.
Bijan all the way, Paul.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing too. I would just
Oh, no,
just
we're
seeing
all
what
in
you
on
guys would think.
Yeah, we're
Because
all on the Bijan train, honestly.
we all are.
100%.
All right, so I guess maybe the most fun we can have on this show is talking about who we would want the Bills to take with their first pick. It doesn't have to be 27. They could trade down into the second round, or they can even trade up in the first round. It's who would you want the Bills to take in the first round? So we can go in order. We can go clockwise if we want. I can go first, Tommy, then Jen, and then Ben, and then we all can discuss and maybe fight a little bit on who we want to take. My three players was Jack Campbell, Bijan Robinson, and Quentin Johnson. Obviously, you want to start with Bijan. Bijan is a franchise-changing player. I mean, you look at what he did in Texas. I mean, what he did in Texas was beyond what many of the other running backs did. I mean, you get a guy like him. He can also block for Josh Allen. We don't have a guy on our roster right now in the running back room that can actually sit in the backfield and block. Most of the guys see a 300-pound defensive end and they decide to go into the turtle shell and walk away. So Bijan Robinson would defend Josh Allen, and he also would give Josh Allen doing what he does well. Do what he does well. Josh Allen loves play action. You roll him out and he just throws a 30-yard dart down the middle of the field. That's what Josh Allen is good at, and why not get a guy like Bijan to get him back to his old self and play some play action? Quentin Johnson gives the Bills a 6'3" wide receiver. He's 208 pounds. The problem with Quentin Johnson, he had 8 drops in 2022. I guess you can fix that. You can fix that with Josh Allen and train him not to drop the ball. He's not the fastest. He's not more athletic, but he's the big guy, kind of like D Hop. Say we don't get a guy like a D Hop, 6'3", 208 pounds, fully fit, what the Bills would be looking for, and kind of what we were looking for with another addition with D Hop and Jack Campbell. Right before we came on, Sanders, comparison of Micah Parsons. Ben can get more into that when he talks about uh, his players in a minute. But Jack Campbell, I really like him. I mean, what Drew Sanders, just to compare, just for a quick second, what Drew Sanders did in one season is what Jack Campbell did in 4 years in 3 years in Iowa and in 1 year in Cincinnati. Uh, 15 tackles for loss, 15 and a half tackles for loss, 5 interceptions, three forced fumbles in 4 years of college at Iowa. I really like him. He has a quick burst. He's really aggressive, and he kind of fits what the Bills are looking for in his zone in a zone defense. He can go to zone. So I think those three players are my best three picks. The Bills should go after.
That was great, Paul. Great picks right there. So you want me to go next?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay, my three players I had Bijan, I had Darnell Washington, and I had JSN. So I'll go one by one. So Bijan, yeah, generational type running back. Who wouldn't want that on their team? I mean, they compare him to LaDainian Tomlinson. So I mean,
Yep.
the dude can do it all. He can block. He can run. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, he's a home run threat. So that's my take on Bijan. And then number two, Darnell Washington. Now this dude, he is a beast. I mean, he can block for Josh. He can catch out. He can catch, run down the field. He'll be a what do you call it? A nightmare for defensive backs and linebackers in the red zone. Like you have him, Knox, and say D Hop and Diggs. Like, how do you cover all that weaponry? You know what I'm saying?
You can't.
I remember in one of the bowl games, I saw him hurdle somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I think that maybe our coaching staff would like that, add that to our room, especially Josh, because Josh is known for hurdling guys. So, and then JSN,
Right.
the reason why I picked JSN is and that's if we don't end up with D Hop. I think a move up to maybe try to get JSN would be it's probably the least likely, but miracle trade. Because JSN, like he's a matchup nightmare too on his routes. Like he can run any route in the tree book. So yeah, he's one of my other favorites in this draft. So those are the top three. I'm going offense for my guys. So that'll make Josh.
Yeah, that's for me too. For one, I have Bijan. He's a generational back. I really like his pass blocking, and he's a mix of a bell cow and he's super fast. And his catching ability is, aside from what James Cook can do, it's something that Josh needs. I remember watching one of his games, and he made this amazing like twisting catch, and the ball just sticks to his hands. Number two, I have Jordan Addison. I think that he's most similar to Diggs out of all the receivers in the draft. He can go deep. He can run intermediate routes. He's good in the slot. He's one of the best route runners in this class. And third, I have JSN. What we really need is that intermediate route runner, and that's what I got.
That's perfect. All right, Ben.
All right, so as far as what I personally want, it's probably exactly what Tommy's list is. Like those are like my favorite players in the draft. But like as far as what I think the Bills probably need and will target, Drew Sanders is my prediction for the first round right now. I don't know. I have this feeling that's who the pick is. If you look at the history, they love their SEC defensive players. They love guys with traits, guys who just have explosiveness and can do stuff like that. So, I mean, you look at Edmonds is kind of a similar pick. He wasn't an inside linebacker in college, but they liked what they saw, and they saw the potential enough to make it a first-round pick. So I think Drew Sanders is probably their highest rated linebacker just based off what he could do. And Paul, you mentioned the Micah Parsons type comparison. I mean, if you get a guy who he can rush the passer, has got really good pass rush ability, but he's just so explosive and athletic. I mean, you can move him around. Like, I think he would be a great pick on defense. And like, if you're going defense round one, that's who I would draft. I would draft Drew Sanders, because if you could add a Micah Parsons to this defense and just think of like the different like limitless possibilities. I mean, you still have Terrell Bernard, who you used a 3rd-round pick on. So, I mean, if you want to mix things up as far as personnel rise, you still have Teron Johnson. You signed Taylor Rapp. So, I mean, honestly, if you get a guy like Sanders, I mean, you could basically just mix it up a lot. And number 2, I had Addison as well. I think that's probably the realistic receiver on the board. As much as I would wish for JSN Tommy, I think it is a pipe dream. I think he's going to go in the top 10 even. So I think him, and I love Bijan.
Yep.
I do, but I also don't think he's going to be there anywhere near. So my 3rd player is actually Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. I mean, look at his Georgia Tech tape. He's gotten comparisons to Jamal Charles, a more explosive Kamara. To me, I see shades of CJ Spiller, like from his ability to, not only just pass, catch, and run, but his vision, his explosiveness, his ability to cut and bounce to the outside. He's got great balance. I think that's a weapon. Like, people say that's James Cook, but I mean, it's not James Cook. Like, I mean, James Cook he's got shades of Gibbs, but Gibbs has that home run ability where if you give it to him, he can just put his foot in the ground and take it all the way. I mean, even when you're talking about Bijan is good, but if you want a 4.37 speed and fantastic pass catching ability, that's something that Gibbs gives you. I mean, I'm on the Gibbs train myself right now. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not even his Alabama tape. Go and look at him at Georgia Tech. He was one of the best running backs in college football at Georgia Tech. He did it at 2 places. So I like Gibbs just because I don't think Bijan is going to be in that range. So I like Sanders, Addison, and Gibbs at pick 27.
Ben, I had him number 4, so we were close. So I had him number.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. Yep.
What's his measurables?
I think he's 5'11". He's not tiny by any means. Let me pull it up.
I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Maybe I'm wrong, and he is. No. Yeah, 5'11", 201, and he's 4.37.
Wow.
Like, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
That's pretty good and pretty fast.
Yeah, that's very fast. Well, I mean, for comparison, Cook ran a 4.41, which or 4.42. I mean, you could say it's start time, but pull up tape, even like the Bama versus Georgia game in the Natty, where Cook had like the 76-yard run. When Cook gets in the open field, it looks like he's gliding and he's good at running, but he doesn't really have the speed to just break away. Like even Dalvin, I would say, has better breakaway speed than James, because remember that like 76-yard touchdown he had against us last year? I mean, I was at that game, but like Gibbs is gonna, stick his foot in the ground, and he's got that breakaway speed.
Yeah, like, you could have a Gibbs and Cook dynamic.
And I mean, there's this one play that Gibbs did in college where like he's not even the running back, like he's motioning across the backfield. The quarterback dumps it off. I mean, I'm just thinking, if you put him in like the slot, Cook is like the running back, like, I mean, it's like a chess piece. It's not just a running back. You get an offensive weapon.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And about Drew Sanders, doesn't he have an edge rushing background?
Yes, he does. I think he does.
Yep.
So imagine while Von Miller is out, we try to use him on the edge, and we put Terrell Bernard in there
Yeah.
in the middle linebacker position.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and just imagine how many different linebackers you have that can rush the passer and hit the quarterback. Like
Oh, yeah.
you would have Bernard, then you would have Milano, of course, who's one of the best blitzing linebackers in the league right now, off-ball linebackers, that is. And then you got like Von Miller. I mean, even Epineza quietly had 7.5 sacks last year. Like I'll if he's on the team, I'm gonna make a hot take. I think AJ goes for double-digit sacks next year.
I could see that. I mean, he had 7.5 last year,
Yeah.
so why
That's my
can't he?
early prediction.
Oh, 6.5.
And say 6.5 for Espinosa, who had 7 last year.
No, I didn't he have 6.5 last year.
Oh,
I thought he had
6.5.
7.5. I think he
Okay.
was close to 8. I think it was like the quietest, like almost 8-sack season ever.
No.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think he was literally half a sack away from 8, which was so surprising because like
Let's see.
I only remember like 2 plays, which was the New England game, and I don't even remember any other his stacks.
He had 6.5 sacks. He had,
Okay,
and he
so you
had
might be
2
right.
forced fumbles. He had 2
Okay.
forced fumbles last year.
Listen to this. So we had 6.5 in 2022. He only had 1.5 in 2021.
wow.
Dang.
That's a
Yeah.
massive jump.
And he
So
played
6.5, that's almost 7. Like that's good.
only played one more game.
Yeah.
No, I
I
wonder
mean-
what his snap percentage is.
Probably just gonna increase too going forward as well.
His snap percentage was about the same. On defense, well, obviously on defense, but his snap percentage was 38% in 2022 and 37% in 2021.
I mean, that shows that he's growing into that player that we kind of were hoping. I mean, how about Jack Campbell and AJ Espinosa, both Iowa kids?
Mhm.
Right.
Let's recruit the Big 12. Why not?
Yeah.
What I'm confused about though is we haven't had any reports about Jack Campbell seeing the Bills.
Mhm.
But we have Trenton Simpson and Drew Sanders have
Mhm.
had visits with the Bills.
Might be.
Oh yeah, I didn't know Jack Campbell didn't even visit.
They might like the more positionless like linebacker type player, because like almost like Terrell Bernard too. Like yes, he played. I mean, he played kind of a couple different positions at Baylor, and then you got Drew Sanders, who kind of is similar as a prospect to Tremaine Edmonds was coming out of Virginia Tech. So I mean, that just might be how Bean and McDermott like their linebackers, more of like a positionless, player who could fill a couple of different spots.
Mhm.
Agreed. So
And that's
that.
what I was, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
And that's what I was kind of worried about in the beginning. I didn't really want like Trenton Simpson or Drew Sanders because I want a traditional middle linebacker like how Tremaine Edmonds was. But
Well, Edmonds wasn't even a middle linebacker though, Jenna,
Right.
coming out of Virginia Tech. Like
They-
I went and I actually, before we went on, I went to look at the inside linebacker rankings for the 2018 class. Edmonds wasn't even listed on the inside linebacker ratings for the 2018 class. So, I mean, I've also heard that Sanders is like a more aggressive version of Tremaine Edmonds. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
can get a player like that on your team, sign me up.
I guess the one question around Sanders is his raw ability, because he only had 1 year where he was starting, and
Yeah, but
I mean in 1
he was
year,
also in
but I mean
Bama.
in 1 year he had 9.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah,
Right.
he's a beast.
I guess what I was really getting at was that like Jack Campbell is classic middle linebacker at Iowa.
Right. But that's not what Edmonds was. So if they go the Edmonds route, they wouldn't take Campbell, from what I would say, because I mean, had they gone for the traditional middle linebacker in 2018, the pick would have been Leighton Vander Esch versus Tremaine Edmonds. So
Plus, we're running a new defensive scheme too a little bit.
Yeah.
Compared, what
Yeah,
Leslie
McDermott calling plays.
a little bit more aggressive. So we're going to see a little different scheme, which could benefit our players.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
It'll probably maximize their strengths.
Yep. 100%.
It does.
Yep.
So this kind of wraps up the show for the first time. I mean, for the first live show. How about that? I mean, we did one last week. We did a mock draft. Kind of cool. But this really landscaped what the entire show will look like heading forward. Most likely next week we'll be on Twitter again. So give the live stream a like. Give Undercovers a follow. Give the co-host a follow. The co-host Twitter handles are in the bio for the Undercovers podcast. And thanks again for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.